Good morning, everybody. We, in this module, are going to talk about the first people who lived on the lands that we are standing on right now. Our goal is to understand the lives and cultural values of the first people to live on these lands. For many reasons, we want to do this. One is that so many histories don't talk about that or give you a unit. But everything about our land, everything about how we live, everything about the decisions that have gotten made, about development, about where things are and what they are, everything is related to the first people who lived here. And it is ridiculous for us not to spend time talking about them and learning about all the different people and how this became Washington State in relationship to the land that people lived on. So here we go. Here are some course objectives. If you want them, you can skip this part if you want. Examine major ideas, turning points, and chronology in the Pacific Northwest. Connect patterns of habitation in the Pacific Northwest to geographic characteristics. Compare and contrast multiple perspectives. And finally, we will examine current environmental and political issues in the Pacific Northwest. All of that will happen in this module. There's a lot going on. It's one of my favorite things to teach and talk about. And if we were on the ground, we could go visit the Hebald Cultural Center up on the Tulalip Reservation in Marysville. And I really encourage you to do that when we open back up. So here we go. I want to talk a little bit about, just so you know, how people got to this continent. And we are looking at this from the archaeological information. So the pieces and bits of tools that were used and that are carbon dated, and the bones that were found of people and animals. That's how we're framing this. The stories that you're going to read and hear about from people who lived on this land, whose ancestors lived on this land for 12,000 years, are different from this story I'm going to tell you. And I want you to know that I am telling you this as a history teacher, not as somebody whose ancestors lived on this land. And so it's really important to distinguish those two things. In the map you can see on this slide, people travel. These are the traveling routes that people took over the land bridge, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and scattered across what's Canada and across Canada and down into the southeastern part of the continent, down into the southwest and into Central America, Mexico, and then down the Pacific coast. Those are the main areas routes that people took. So why did they do that, and how was that even possible? And keep in mind, we are talking about 12,000 years ago. This happened towards the end of the last ice age, and the map that you're looking at now is the map of the woolly mammoth patterns and where they migrated, because that is what led the people following the herds. So towards the end of the last ice age, 12,000 years ago, glaciers had formed. And so right now we're in global warming, and we know that sea levels are rising because of the warming temperatures melting the ice. So land has been covered by sea. But at that time, during the Ice Age, the glaciers formed and the water dried up and formed into ice. And because of that, the sea levels lowered. And so land was exposed. And on this land traveled the woolly mammoth, traveled the herds of animals that nomads were tracking. And so there was a land bridge that formed between the continent of Asia and the continent of what became North America, and people crossed over that land. The name of the land bridge was called Beringia, and we're going to later in our work, you're going to learn a little bit more about how all these things got named, but not right at the moment. Plants grew on this land, and it drew people to be able to eat, and the herds were eating. So the nomadic people crossed over the land bridge and followed the herds and the plants and the plant life, and came into this for them, new land. And this is 12,000 years ago. That's the earliest scientific knowledge that we've got about when people migrated here. And so this is over centuries. This didn't happen at 12,000 years, but that was the earliest time. And so people continued to move across the land and migrate across the continent here, the American continent. So how they developed into tribal groups, again, it was over thousands of years. And so we're looking at a map right now of Washington State with our state political boundary. The tribal groups did not recognize these boundaries, and so it's odd even to show this slide, but I wanted you to get sort of a context based on the state. The state was covered in tribal lands, and the tribal lands blended over the Nez Perce in the south, eastern corner, also in Idaho and Oregon, and the Cayuse goes into Oregon, the Coeur d'Alene into Idaho, the Colville up into Canada. But this is just to give you a framework. In Washington State was once covered in tribal land. Later, we're going to find out how that changed. But there were so many tribes that lived on this land and developed into tribal groups. The tribal groups we're going to spend the most time with are the Salish people. And this is called the Salish Sea, which we call the Puget Sound and the Strait of Juan de Fuca and the Georgian Strait up into Canada. All of that is known as the Salish Sea. And the Salish people are who we're going to study the most here. The early settlements, as I said, over 12,000 years ago, there's evidence of people living on this land. They settled primarily along waterways because fish was plentiful, and the fish brought other animals down to the water to feast. They moved between camps, both summer and winter camps. You can see above here, and on the very first slide, we saw the longhouse. People lived in longhouses. These were the permanent dwellings of the people. They developed multiple languages, but there was a lot of crossover in the languages. There were some common forms, but there were dialects of the common forms as well. So you might belong to the Snohomish tribe and then found that people who were part of that tribe became then part of the Samish tribe or the Sammamish tribe, and there were offshoots of the languages. One of the primary Puget Sound languages was the Lushootseed, and some of you may go on and explore that language. There's a whole pronunciation dictionary available to you later on in this module. Really important, and I want to say this is probably one of the biggest takeaways I'd like you to get from this little talk right now, is about the cultural values of the first people. So here we go. Definitely people were materialistic in a different way than we are now. They didn't want to own the latest sneaker trend, but material wealth and social status were definitely closely linked. And how that developed was different for every tribe. Land and animals were active participants in daily life. They were not things to look at from afar. They were in part of the way you lived. They were animate, meaning that animals and land were alive with meaning, and they were treated as equals to human life. This is really important in understanding how people saw and used the land because the economy was different. It was called a natural or gift economy. It's circular. Now we have this reuse, recycle, right? Like sort of circle that goes around. Maybe some of you have seen. It comes from this, the idea that we want to renew what we take, that we encourage reproduction of what is taken. So people fished, but they didn't take all the fish. They left plenty of fish in the sea, plenty of fish to regenerate. because they understand that regeneration and reproduction was critical to keeping the stocks alive. You didn't use all of what was grown. You stored seeds. You shared the seeds. So life wasn't about taking everything you could take out of the land and then walking away to the next parcel of land. It was about how do you keep this land that we are living on going? How do you return it back to the land? Private ownership of land is not a concept in the culture. Tribal land belonged to the tribe and not to individuals in the tribe. So I live just north of the college on what was Snohomish land. And my land, my neighborhood is broken up into these lots, and I have a quarter of an acre. I own it. It is not I live in a community, but my land is not the community's land. I own this land. I do what I want with this land. And people don't just come onto my property. You know what I mean? It's such a different way of thinking about it. Tribal land was the tribe. It wasn't an individual's land. So this is a really important concept to understand and to think about. So we're going to be introduced in this particular module to 4 different tribes. You will get to learn about other tribes as you want to, but there are 4 that are the main part of the reading and the videos for this module. The Puyallup tribe is highlighted in the reading, along with the Nez Perce. The Lummi tribe is in one of the videos. The Nez Perce tribe is also in the reading, and the Tulalip tribes are also in one of the web resources that you have a choice to read about or look at or find out more about. These are tribes that are easy to get to, and I encourage you to go visit any of these tribal communities. The Nez Perce are in the southeast corner of the state, so it's a little bit more of a journey, but it's an incredibly beautiful land. So here's the piece, is that everything changed when explorers showed up. This is a map that was drawn by George Vancouver, one of the most famous explorers in this area. Explorers first showed up here in 1540s, and for the next 300 years, explorers from different countries decided that they could claim the land here for their country. All of it, part of it, a piece of it, a section of it, an island here, the entire region for other countries. And this is a really big difference we're going to see in the cultural values. So the countries were Spanish, people were Spanish, Russian, British, French, and American from the eastern coast that had been developed of the Americas. So all of these countries at one time or another decided that they owned this land or that they were going to claim this land for their country. And the idea of claiming the land was one of the shared cultural values of the exploring groups. The environment was something to be studied and used. It was not something that you were integrated into. You used the land, you took out of the land. It was an industrial extraction economy. There are trees. Oh, look at all these old growth trees. Look at all these trees. They're going to be great lumber. We can build a lot of houses. We can ship it off to other countries. We can make a lot of money on it. The idea of putting something back was not something that occurred to people. That's a really big difference in the values. The private ownership of land was strongly encouraged. It was a sign of power and respect and wealth. If I claim this land for Russia, then I am giving to Russia ownership of the land, and I'm going to then settle on this part of the land. This is my land. It didn't matter that people already lived on this land. It didn't matter. And that clash of ideas between who owns the land or the sharedness of the land led to some really huge problems. And you're going to read about them and find out about them as we go forward in this module. The explorers believed that they could increase wealth by establishing colonies for their countries. So they could increase their personal wealth but also the wealth of the country. So if you own all this amazing timberland, which this Washington state was back in the day, if you ever get to go to the old growth forests in the North Cascades and out on the Olympic Peninsula, imagine all of this land that our college is on now, that we're here in now. All of it was that old growth forest. Massive amounts of huge trees that had been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. Um, Increasing the wealth was a really important thing for the people in the explorers groups, even though they were from different countries. There was a shared cultural belief among those countries of what the land was for. So, as we go forward into this module, I want you to start thinking about what you learn about the tribes, what you're going to learn about what happens as the tribes and the exploring group met each other, interacted, how land was taken from them, how land was redistributed, how people were treated, and you're going to enter into that with the very first reading that you do. And that is going to be about the Puyallup tribe and the Nez Perce.